Mortgages payable are long-term debts that are backed with a security interest in specific property. The mortgage will state that the borrower promises to transfer the legal title to specific assets if the mortgage is not paid on schedule. This is very similar to the long-term notes payable we just covered. The main difference is the mortgage payable is secured with specific assets, whereas long-term notes are not secured with specific assets. Another difference, mortgages payable are paid monthly. Like long-term notes payable, the total mortgage payable amount will have a portion due within 1 year, which will be classified as a current liability, and a portion that is due more than 1 year from a specific date. Commonly, mortgages will specify a monthly payment of principal and interest to the lender, usually a bank. The most common type of mortgage is on property, for example, a mortgage on your home. The principal portion of the total mortgage payable that is due within 1 year is current. To figure the amount of each payment to apply to the mortgage payable and how much is interest expense and how much is principal, we create an amortization schedule, which is just a spreadsheet showing all the payments and loan balances after each payment. Before we see the amortization schedule, let's work through an example. So our task is to journalize mortgage issuance. That means we're going to buy some property and issue a mortgage instead of paying cash. And then we have to figure out how much of that mortgage will be due within the next year, and that will be the current portion of the mortgage. And then we will journalize our first payment. So we're going to buy a building for $100,075. There's going to be no down payment. Monthly payments are going to be $600. And the first one is going to be due January 31st. Interest rate is 6%, and we're going to get the building and issue the note on January 1st. So here's the journal entry to issue the mortgage. We get the building, and remember it's an asset and it's going up. It's $100,075, and now we have a liability called mortgages payable. The liability is increasing, and that's going to balance our transaction. Before we do our payment, we have to do an amortization schedule. And we will figure out how much is due, how much principal is due within the next 12 months, and that will be considered the current portion of the liability. Here is our amortization schedule. An amortization schedule details each loan payment's allocation between principal, here's the principal, and interest. Notice that it shows each payment, the interest expense, the amount of principal being paid off each payment, and then the mortgage balance after the payment. We only have space to show 12 payments, but in reality, it would be for all the payments. At first, the amortization schedule may look intimidating, but the calculations are actually pretty simple. First of all, you're given the payment, and the payment remains the same every month. Next, we have to calculate our interest expense. Remember, the formula for simple interest is principal times rate times time. And since these are monthly payments, the time portion is 1 divided by 12, 1 month out of 12. And let's double check the author's math. Is the principal amount of $100,075 times 6% times 1 divided by 12, is that equal to 500.38? Go ahead and check on your calculator. That should work out to be 500.38. Of course, this is currency, so we have to round to 2 decimals. Next, we have to calculate the principal, and all that is just you take the payment and subtract how much interest expense is being paid, and then the amount of principal being paid off is the difference. So in this case, $600 minus the interest expense of 500.38 gives us 99.62. This means out of this $600 payment, only $99.62 of this big mortgage is being paid off. As you can tell, over time, the principal amount slowly increases and the interest expense slowly decreases, because remember, the payment is the same every month. The next step is to calculate the balance of the mortgage after the payment. So to do that, you're going to take the previous balance, in this case, $100,075, minus the principal being paid off, gives us our new balance of $99,975.38. So you should double check this calculation just so you understand exactly where it's coming from and that the authors really did this correctly. Now the amount of principal being paid off in the next 12 months, so if we add up all these amounts, it turns out to be $1,228.91. So out of this $100,075, the current portion is the $1,228.91, and the balance is going to be the long-term liability. So this $98,846.09 is the long-term liability, and the $1,228.91 is the current liability. Now our next task is to record the first payment. Remember, the transaction happened at the beginning of the month. It's now January 31st, so we have to make our $600 payment. So to do this transaction, we need an amortization schedule, and we know we need to record some interest expense, and the amount to record is $500.38. Interest is going up. And we also need to record the amount of the mortgage that's being paid off, and that's the principal amount, $99.62. Add those two up, and those have to be equal to our payment, and cash is going to be going down for our payment.